Charlee Soto to UCF for the MLB, and Mackenzie Milton to the Vols. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, as always, a quick word from our sponsors, BetOnline. BetOnline.ag is your number one source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest player reports for this year's pro basketball playoffs. BetOnline is always your sports information headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your sports wagering needs. Basketball, MLB, NHL hockey, right to UFC and boxing. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options in your favorite casino and card games that you can play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Hope everybody's doing good. Episode 51. We keep rolling. We keep doing things. And I announced yesterday we're having Charlee Soto, UCF baseball commit, and definitely going to be a first-round pick in the MLB Draft in the next couple months. He's on. If you want to skip to that interview, the time code is down below, and you could probably just click on that, and it'll go straight to the interview. But beforehand, we're going to talk a little Mackenzie Milton. But before we even talk about that, my good friend Nick Geddes is on. Nick, how are you doing? We actually did the interview before we did this part, which it's a good interview, I must say. I'm sure you assumed it went pretty well, Nick.
Let me just say that Charlee Soto is so impressive for being a 17-year-old. I don't even know if I can call him a man. 17 years old. I'll call him a young man because I tell you what, he holds himself and carries himself like he is a grown man. Very impressive kid. So I definitely encourage everybody to stay through or skip to that interview because you're going to be very impressed with him. Just like one of 30, what are we at? 30 teams, right? 30, 31 teams. I'm so lost. I've completely lost track of what we're doing now with MLB. One of 30 or 31 teams, whatever it is going to be very impressed with him, and they're going to take him in the first round of the 2023 amateur draft this summer, and somebody's going to get an absolute gem. I'm very confident that after we spoke with him.
And obviously, I'm sure a lot of you want him to come to UCF, which, listen, I'm not going to speak for him, right? He gave his answer on if he's coming to UCF or if he's going to the MLB. He gave that answer in the interview. So go over there, go listen to his answer on that.
And by the way, if you've paid attention to UCF's or if you paid attention to UCF's baseball team because their run is over, if you paid attention, their pitching was absolutely horrendous this season. So I think Mr. Lovelady over there in UCF baseball land would definitely love to have that guy on campus. So there you go.
100%. Well, before we get to that interview, a little piece of news dropped the other day that I thought was warranted. It warranted a discussion. It really did. Mackenzie Milton, greatest quarterback to ever lace it up for UCF, in my opinion.
Bold take.
Is heading to Tennessee to be an offensive analyst for the Vols, joining former head coach Josh Heupel, former AD Danny White. My initial thoughts on it, it's the least surprising news that you probably would have heard. I think we were all anticipating Mackenzie being a coach at some point. Obviously, he's not a coach yet. He's an offensive analyst, but this is the first step in a hopefully long coaching career for Mackenzie. But I think my thought process, just like every UCF fan is, we kind of wished it was with the Knights. We kind of wished and hoped that seems like a role that I'm sure Darren Hinshaw would have wanted Mackenzie to be in as an offensive analyst with the Knights. I think he's got a lot of relationships with the guys on this team. I think that could have came in handy. I don't know if Gus even offered it to Mackenzie. I know, granted, Nick, I know there's some things with the NIL space that Mackenzie had a business in the NIL space that got basically gifted to Kingdom NIL, and now Kingdom NIL. So I don't know how much Mackenzie was involved in the NIL space anymore. I know he was on the board of Kingdom NIL, but I think this is a good spot. Obviously, UCF fans have their problems with Heupel, right? Heupel has proven what he's done at Tennessee. We'll see if that continues. But I think it's a good spot for him to get started, learn, develop as a coach. And I think we can both agree, and I want to get your thoughts. I think we can both agree that at some point in the not too distant future, McKenzie Milton will 100% be a coach at the University of Central Florida. But kind of give your thoughts on this. McKenzie Milton heading back to be with Heupel and White with the Tennessee Vols.
It makes complete sense when you think about it, because he's obviously expressed his desire to coach at some point, right? And what better way to get it started right now in his early 20s? It's perfect. Get some reps under you as an offensive analyst, and you go to a place, and more in particular, it's a system that McKenzie Milton ran for nearly a full year, so he has a grasp of it. It's a head coach that he has a lot of familiarity with, and some other guys in that coaching staff as well that he has a lot of familiarity with. And I think that's the best thing you could probably get for somebody who's trying to cut their teeth into coaching, especially in the world of college football. So it's a very smart move for McKenzie Milton. I think he's going to absolutely kill it. He's going to be a sponge. In everything he does, he's always going to aim to be the best he can be at. And to your point, a lot of UCF fans were like, Gus fumbled. Not a lot, but some were saying, Gus fumbled the bag badly here. And it's like, he never played for Gus. This is not an offense that he ever played in. Maybe he doesn't understand. I'm not saying he doesn't understand it or anything like that, but familiarity is a big thing here. And going to learn under Josh Heupel, continue to learn under Josh Heupel is a really good move. And you're in the SEC at one of the biggest programs in the entire country at Tennessee, a place that packs 100,000 people in there for just about every home game. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. I'm sure he's going to be a very useful tool to whoever is going to be the quarterback. If it's Joe Milton this year and some of the other young guys in the future, he can be very useful helping those guys out as well. So it's a slam dunk move for McKenzie Milton, and I don't think any UCF fan should be looking at Gus and being like, well, why didn't you go get McKenzie Milton? To your point, stay the course, and I think he'll be back here eventually down the road.
Yeah, I understand, because I think, listen, McKenzie Milton has been in the community for the last couple of years. He took the brief stint to go to Florida State to finish out his college career, but he was right back in Orlando as soon as his college career ended. He's tried to make a name in the NIL space with UCF. He's at UCF events. He is a UCF Knight. There's no question about it. And I think some UCF fans, when hearing this news, I get it's hard, right? Like, even when he was in an FSU uniform, like, you saw him as a Knight. Like, even he saw himself as a Knight. He'd be the first to tell you, like, I'm a Knight and a Knoll, but like at the end of the day, he started an NIL business for UCF. So I think it's hard for some UCF fans to automatically be like, oh my gosh, he's going with Heupel to Tennessee. But you also have to understand, I think if I'm McKenzie Milton, probably my ultimate goal one day is to pull a Scott Frost. Wherever McKenzie Milton is in the world, wherever he's coaching, one day UCF is going to have a head coaching opening. Hopefully it's not for a while. Hopefully Gus takes this program and keeps elevating it how he is. But I guarantee you one day McKenzie is going to say, listen, I want to be a head coach at UCF. That is my goal. That is what I want to happen, because he loves this university so much. So for fans to be like, he's not an offensive analyst for UCF, I understand where there can be some frustration. But also at the end of the day, look at the bigger picture. Let him go on his coaching journey. And if he's meant to be, it's meant for him to come back, he'll be back. Do you have anything else to add to that, Nick?
Yeah, maybe not even head coach. Even if that's what he
OC,
whatever role it is, like, this is nothing new. Like, everybody that's a head coach now in college football played college football, loved the university they were at before, right? Like, Josh Heupel was a star at Oklahoma. Do we think he's ever going to be the Oklahoma head coach? Is that his ultimate goal? I don't know. Everything always takes you down a different route. But when I said that he would return to UCF at some point in the future, I was thinking more in maybe a quarterback type of coach role, an assistant type of role. I wasn't necessarily meaning head coach. I think he's going to be a long ways away from that, obviously. But in some capacity, yes, he is ingrained in Orlando, and I think he will make his way back home.
Well, the only reason my view is when I'm thinking head coach is knowing McKenzie Milton's football mind and hearing how he talks about certain plays. And again, on the field is one thing, but I think his on the field success, I think, is definitely going to translate off the field. I think he's definitely going to be a quick riser depending on how he acclimates to being at Tennessee and coaching in that aspect. my viewpoint is, and yeah, you're right. Like at the end of the day, it might be he's not a head coach at UCF or whatever, but I agree he's definitely going to be back at some point in his coaching career. And if he's as quick a riser as we think he is, then, I mean, the writing's on the wall. At some point, Mackenzie will be back here, and there's a good possibility that he is going to be a head coach for the Knights at some point. We can all dream and hope. Fairy tale story, but for right now, I think he's in a perfect spot, like me and Nick has said, and we wish Mackenzie the best of luck with the Vols this season. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this segment. We're going to send you over to the Charlee Soto interview, like me and Nick said. What a great kid, great conversation, and listen, at the end of the day, whether he comes to the Knights and plays a season or he goes straight to the MLB, whoever gets him, they got a special one on their hands. So here is Charlee Soto on Charge On. Welcome back to Charge On. Like we've been saying this entire episode, we have a really special guest, Charlee Soto, UCF baseball commit, and bona fide going to be a first-round MLB draft pick in the upcoming draft. Charlie, thank you so much for coming on to Charge On. We really do appreciate it, my man.
Thank you guys for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on this show.
No, for sure. I think first, yesterday, tough loss for the boys. Against number 15 team in ECU, going into 13, 14 innings, a must-win game, but I think the boys showed a lot of fight. Kind of, what has been your take this season as a whole, and kind of the team this past year?
No, I mean, I've got to meet a lot of the guys. They're good guys. There's some 5-year seniors, and then there's obviously the freshmen. But I mean, they all play well together. They have a great chemistry. Back with great coaches. I mean, Lovelady, Tom, Maroth. I mean, they have a great coaching staff. So I feel like as the years come, if I end up getting there, and me and Bauman and some of the other guys, I think we'll have a pretty good squad going forward.
And sort of take us through that recruiting process that you had. A lot of teams looking after you. Was it always UCF, or were there some other teams that you were really considering in that process?
Yeah, so UCF offered me fall of 2021, I think it was. They offered me fall. They were my third offer, so I had FGCU, and then I had USF, and then it was UCF. But I mean, UCF really stood out to me because, first of all, the environment. It's a great environment. I love being on campus, all that kind of stuff. Love the coaches. Academics is a big one too, and it's just close to home. It's 40 minutes away. It's a drive. It's right there. And I mean, it was only my third offer, but I feel like, I wanted to make that decision because I felt like it was comfortable. I just felt like at home when I got to meet the guys and the coaches and all that kind of stuff. So it was a pretty easy decision for me.
Well, that's good. Knowing that USF was in the mix, I'm glad it went the other direction. To be honest with you, Charlie, we wouldn't probably hear the end of it from USF fans if you did end up committing to them. That would have been rough. But we're glad that you committed to us, and you're a Knight regardless. But listen, we all hear, right? Like, you have a big decision to make. We'll get into that later on, but I think a lot of UCF fans aren't expecting you to step onto campus, right? You're getting ready for the draft. You're putting in the work right now. Kind of, you're 17 years old. You're going to be 18 in a couple months. How has that draft prep been right now? I mean, obviously, I've heard you're kind of showing teams what you've got. Teams are showing up to a lot of your workouts. You're showing them, what you've got in the bag. How has that draft prep been, and what's been the most surprising thing up until this point?
It's been nerve-wracking. It's been exciting. It's just kind of all of that in one. Because I mean, like you said, I'm a 17-year-old kid, and the fact that I have all these scouts, coming to watch me pitch, it's just something that I've been looking forward to since I was a kid. Because I've seen a lot of those guys on TV get drafted, so I know that there were scouts, going to watch them. But it's been pretty crazy, the fact that they'll pull up, they'll come to one of your bullpens, even if you're throwing 15, 20 pitches, just to see you, which is kind of crazy to me. They'll drive, hour and a half, 2 hours just to see you throw a bullpen. And, it's just it's exciting for me because, this process it's been long, I'm still young, I don't have a lot of knowledge with it. As I've gotten a lot more, experience with it as the time has went on. But I mean, it's been fun, and I'm living out my childhood dreams. So I mean, I couldn't ask for anything better.
And Charlie, obviously being from close to the Orlando area, I'm just curious, when you were growing up watching baseball, did you root for anybody, or is there any guys now that you emulate with your game?
So I watched a lot of Hunter Green when he was in high school. I mean, he threw 102 as a junior. So, I mean, I wanted to do anything he did. So I watched him a lot, and also he's big in helping this community. He still does to this day, which is what I've been doing a lot lately, is helping my community. I'll never forget where I came from. So that's one guy who stood out to me, on the field and off the field as well.
Yeah, Charlie, talk about your community work a little bit. I know a Miracle League, you do a lot with them. It's a great organization. So tell me about your work with Miracle League and what you're going to do in the community, whether you're here or not.
Yeah, so Miracle League it's like a little baseball league for kids with special needs, who didn't get the opportunity that I have. And volunteers like myself, we just go out there and help them if they need help throwing or hitting or running or anything like that. We're just there to help them and just have a great time with them, because that showed me that I can't take what I have for granted. That God gave me a great opportunity, and I'm not gonna take that for granted at all. And we were just out there. They're asking me for autographs, pictures. I did all of that. And, that's something that I want to leave behind, when I'm not here is who I am as a person, not only as a player, because I feel like that's big for me, for people to know who I am as a person. And, the scouts as well, they always want to know who you are as a person. That's big for them. So, yeah, I just want to leave a good legacy behind, in the Kissimmee, Orlando area, and eventually the whole state of Florida.
Yeah, I could tell just by the way you talk, you really love your community and obviously the state. And I'm just curious. I know you'll play wherever you get drafted, obviously, but would it mean a lot to you if you got to stay in the state of Florida?
Yeah, it would mean a big thing to me, because my parents, they'd be close to me. They'd be able to go see me play. My sister also lives here. She actually graduated from UCF like 3 weeks ago. And then my brother lives in Arizona, but he'll be back here anytime soon. So, it'd be great for me to stay in Florida and for them to be able to come see me, every week if they can, so it'd be great. But wherever I go to play, I know they'll be proud of me and just watching me, whether it's on TV or in person.
Did you have a favorite team or player growing up? I mean, that's an obvious question to all athletes, but who was the team that you kind of rooted for, or the player that you kind of looked to emulate?
Growing up, since I was born in Philly, I watched a lot of the Phillies. And a favorite player growing up that I remember from the Phillies is Carlos Ruiz, catcher. He was a guy that I watched a lot growing up, but I mean, I didn't really have a lot of favorite players. I mean, I could say my brother, because, I looked up to my brother since I started playing the game. He's the reason why I got, the love for the game, because, I'd always go to the field with him, and it made me fall in love with the game, and watching him play, it made me want to, follow in his footsteps. So growing up, he was probably my favorite player.
So just speaking specifically to your development and what you can offer teams, right? And we know you could throw high 90s with the fastball. Just what has that development kind of been like? What has been like when did you start throwing that hard? What has that process been like? And what do you think that you can improve on going forward?
Yeah, so it's been a pretty long process. I mean, I've always been kind of the hard thrower on my team, but I think I kind of fell back summer of 2021. I was like maybe 88, 90, and I've seen a lot of guys 95, 96, some guys up to 97, and I realized that I had to do something to start throwing harder. So that's when me and one of my coaches, we got on a scapula program, and I was just for 5 days a week, 6 months straight, I was on that program. And it's basically, I just lay on a massage table and I have like maybe 5-pound weights and I'm throwing it to the side like that, just eyes wide and tees. And that helped me a lot, as well as in the weight room, getting a lot of lower body work in, mobility as well, trying to stay as flexible as I can. And I did all that for 6 months. Come December, I got up to 96 at Main Event Perfect Game Showcase. And I mean, from there on, my name blew up. People started knowing who I was, and that's what got me to where I am today.
Charlie, why do you think you're the best pitcher in this draft?
I think I'm the best pitcher in this draft, not only because of how good my stuff is, but because of my work ethic. I put in the work no matter where I am. If I'm at a hotel on vacation, I'm gonna put my work in. Anywhere I'm at. I mean, last year at East Coast Pro, we had a game. I threw a night game. And then the day after, first of all, there was like 400 scouts there. And the day after, I was running my hill sprints, because at the Hoover Met complex, there's like a little hill. I was running my hill sprints there. And then I started doing some stair work, just to get my strength back, to recover. And I didn't see any other pitcher or any other player do that all week. And I knew I found out that that's what separates me, is the way I work. And I even had some people tell me like, hey, that's good what you did. I wrote that down in my book. And from there on, I was like, yeah, that's why I'm the best. I'm the best pitcher here, because the way I work, it's different from all the other guys.
I think that is going to separate you. And I read a lot of your scouting reports that people are writing about you, and I find it very interesting, right? We talked about your age, right? You're 17, but a lot of people want to put a lot of emphasis on a 17-year-old's frame, size, weight. Kind of, do you take that criticism, with a grain of salt, saying I'm 17 years old? Like, why are you kind of reading so much into this when I have so many more years of development? Or do you kind of take it and add that chip on your shoulder and move forward with that?
I don't let it affect me in any way. I just kind of leave that chip on my shoulder. I'm not gonna worry about what some other person has to say. I just go out there and play my game because I know I have good stuff. I know I have what it takes, to get to where I want to be. So I just kind of let them talk, and whatever happens, happens. The only person who knows what's going to happen is the man above. So I just leave it all in his hands.
100%, Charlie. Last question. Obviously, you're on a UCF podcast, right? I think, again, like I said at the beginning, by all accounts, you're going to be a first-round draft pick in less than 2 months, right? A question on everybody's mind is, are you going to be a Knight? Are you going to come to UCF for, a year, see, kind of develop more? Or are you going to whatever team drafts you? Kind of give your thought process. You don't need to say if you've made a decision or not. I'm sure you're still going through it, but talk us through what you're thinking about every day leading up to when you're going to have to make that decision, and what are the pros and cons to each option at this point?
Well, first of all, I think both routes, are a great route. Whether you go college or not, I feel like they're both a great route. I just feel like it comes down to, are you ready to play pro ball? If you're not, I feel like if you're not ready to play pro ball, then you could, go to college, because like I said, college is not a bad route because you're playing baseball as well as getting an education. And if baseball doesn't work out, so you have an education behind you. But I feel like, lately I haven't been really thinking about that. I've kind of just been, putting my work in, just playing the game like I normally do. And, whatever happens, happens. But, I know my parents would love to see me play at UCF and put on a Knights jersey. But they would also love to see me, play on a professional team. But either way, they're going to be happy for me. And whatever happens, happens. I'm just going to leave it in God's hands and let him take the wheel.
Listen, I'm sure either way, Knight Nation will be happy for you. We're rooting for you. I mean, we're excited as hell to see what is going to happen with you, regardless of if you come here or not. We're pumped that you committed to us, and we're pumped to see your journey, man. So we appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much, for sure.
Got to get you on a pod. In the next month or two, right before the draft, 100%.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll still be, even if I don't end up getting to UCF, I'll still be going back on campus to watch games, go to football games and all that kind of stuff. Because I went last fall, on our official visit against Cincinnati, and that stadium was hype. So I want to get that experience again for sure.
See, that's the thing. See, nobody understands it. I don't know if you can experience that anywhere else, Charlie. You know that, right?
No, I'm walking and I'm like bouncing up and down because everyone's jumping. That's why they call it the bounce house. I was walking and I was floating in the air. I'm like, what's going on here?
It's legit.
It was a different experience for sure.
It's legit, man. And that's why UCF fans are the best. And we're happy that you're a Knight. Thank you so much for coming on, Charlie. We really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. Charlie. Definitely got to get on another one.
100%. Guys, this has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online. We will see you next week.